So I haven't done any of these deck list kind of videos, but with COVID, I thought I'd give a shot kind of going over a one of my favorite decks that I play quite a bit with my friends when possible. And that's Nicol Bolas, the Ravager. So let's just kind of get into the card discussion, etc. So first off, thank you to MIB Altars for making this sweet altar for me. Super beautiful. I'm not a huge fan of the Nicol Bolas Ravager art, but let's go over the card quickly. It's a 4 mana 4/4 Grixis and a generic for a flying. When Nicol Bolas the Ravager enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card, and then you can pay 4 in Grixis and exile Nicol Bolas the Ravager and return him to the battlefield, transformed under your owner's control. And you can only activate this ability as a sorcery. God, how I wish you could do that as an instant to actually make this reasonable. But Nicol Bolas the Arisen, when he flips as Planeswalker, comes in with 7 loyalty, which is awesome. Something to know that's important is the CMC of this card when it's flipped is still 4, and it is still Grixis in colors. So it's got +2 loyalty, draw 2 cards. This ability is awesome. It's one of the things that makes the card playable in my mind. It allows Nicol Bolas to actually act as card advantage along with the discard a card, so kind of flopping back and forth as to why this is kind of sweet. When Nicol Bolas enters the battlefield, each opponent discarding a card sounds pretty benign, and it kind of is, especially like when playing the card, it makes you feel like you're playing a 3-for-1. The deck honestly ends up acting like an archenemy, or at least I'm not sitting down at the table planning on really buddying up with anybody. So what's nice about it is when you're casting him for 4, it's a 3-for-1 still, that somebody's probably going to have to spend removal on eventually just to either stop you from flipping or not die eventually to the Planeswalker side. And then when you pay 6 mana, it's another 3-for-1, 4-for-1, etc. And one player using their counterspell on it ends up trading pretty poorly because they're trading 1-for-1 with just you, while they could be, trading their 1 counterspell for 1 card off of 2 other opponents of theirs. So I've not found people are interested in countering it all too often. I think that's correct on their side as well. When somebody goes to remove it, you're at least getting kind of a 4-for-1 out of the card entirely. So back to the Arisen. The other loyalty abilities here are -3. Nicol Bolas Arisen deals 10 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Just kills anything on the table, basically, if necessary. And then -4, put target creature or planeswalker card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Now, this is the ability that actually makes a lot of the deck work in general. Gives you a lot of recursion for creatures and planeswalkers, and spoiler alert, my build is a little bit heavier on the planeswalkers than it probably should be, but it's sweet. And then the last ability, exile all but the bottom card of target player's library for -12. This just kind of kills a player and is one of the handful of win cons in this list. I often will kill a player once with this ability in a game, if I'm winning at least. If I'm way behind, then you're never going to get there. In which case, the -4 and the +2 are kind of what carry this card and often this deck in a lot of ways. All right, so getting to the actual deck here. So starting off kind of in order with some win cons here. So Spark Double here is great. It enters the battlefield as a copy of any creature or planeswalker with either an additional loyalty or +1/+1 counter on it. And often what this comes into play as is it gets reanimated, or it comes into play as another copy of Nicol Bolas the Arisen, because it can be just incredibly backbreaking having 2 of that planeswalker in play, any of the Nicol Bolas planeswalkers really, but particularly the Arisen, because drawing 5 cards in your turn cycle very quickly buries players. Additionally, when you're down ticking Nicol Bolas the Arisen from 7 to 3 loyalty, you're getting another Nicol Bolas that comes in with 8 loyalty, which allows you to immediately down tick and reanimate another planeswalker or creature. So it diversifies the number of threats you've got on the board very quickly, and makes it so that people have tough decisions. Going from, 8 to 4 yourself and having the Arisen on 3 means if they kill the Arisen with an attack, you can still down tick Spark Double to return your commander to play. Everyone discards a card, pay mana, flip it, return Spark Double to play, return another thing. So yeah, really important to the deck in general, winning games. Nicol Bolas the Dragon God, awesome planeswalker, great ability. Often actually ends up winning the game immediately when it comes into play with the each opponent who does not control a legendary creature planeswalker loses the game. We'll get into how I do that later, but otherwise this is just a super powerful planeswalker for 5 mana. It's +1. It's, not the most powerful thing in the planet. I know it's still a 4-for-1 immediately, which at least makes you feel okay about paying 5 mana for the card. Although people will often just exile a land or a mana rock or something on the side, which is not particularly relevant. But if you have two Nicol Bolas Dragon Gods in play, or with Spark Double, or you just need card advantage over time, it works. And really it's the -8 or the ability to copy any of the other really powerful planeswalkers in the list's abilities with his first passive trait. And also awesome card. So Nicol Bolas God Pharaoh, this ruins people, specifically this +1 ability, each opponent exiles 2 cards from hand, with your commander, causing players to lose a card immediately. At 4 mana plus this, you very quickly have all of your opponents top decking while you are drawing effectively 3 cards with the Nicol Bolas Arisen. And then just kind of good board control. 7 damage to target opponent or creature an opponent controls. It also has been Oracle text to planeswalkers they control, so kind of more or less kills anything or does 7 to whatever you want. I've also killed players with just doming people with this a couple times. But and then just a Cyclonic Rift for -12, except for it exiles everything instead of bouncing it, which is always useful. And then you can kind of steal win cons off of other people. This deck is pretty light on win cons overall. It's a control-ish list that just kind of is hoping to grind the game out and go from there. The OG Bolas Planeswalker, not the OG creature, which I do not run the creature in the list, as I was saying. Friends and I kind of play at that, 8.5, 9, just below CDH level. So, just the, 7 creatures aren't playable. But destroy target non-creature permanent, awesome. Removes anything, just get it out of here. -2, gain control of target creature, which is often what this comes down on a pretty clear board after a board wipe somewhere. Goes around the table, players play maybe 1 creature, another relevant spell, slam your Bolas Planeswalker, steal the biggest creature on the table, have 3 loyalty, be able to protect yourself, and then start upticking. -9, basically removes the player from the game. Losing 7 cards, 7 permanents, this can just put a player back to ground zero. So, and then deliver onto evil with our 4 Bolas Planeswalkers, returning Yogg Willing, basically 4 cards to your hand, / better than Yogg Will in a lot of ways, because you're going to be able to hold on to those spells. This can just break the game open for yourself, returning maybe a tutor and a counterspell and a Cyclonic Rift and something else from the graveyard into your hand. Puts you over the top pretty quickly. Grave Titan, this is just here to, you know, swing, make bodies, power, etc. Honestly, a card I've thought about cutting, but it's good. Now the ramp. I've got Mana Crypt, Soul Ring, Signets, Talismans, you know, Signets. Just going quickly through this because I take a lot of time talking about other things. As Foretold, this is just kind of a fun card. It's not particularly strong, although, you know, if it gets to 4 counters, I'll end up using it on replaying my commander from the command zone, just kind of paying 2 mana for it on the 2nd or 3rd time, etc. Can make an astounding amount of mana and keep you in the game. Also helps lock people out with Forbid. Thran Dynamo. This is important just because it ramps you from 4 to 7, which lets you flip Nicol Bolas Arisen. Kind of same idea with here with Gilded Lotus, makes more colors, immediately ramps you up to being able to flip Bolas. So next kind of part's a little bit more like Staxy cards. We've got Liliana Veil here. Each player discards a card. Again, with curving out from Liliana, uptick, everybody discards a card. Into Bolas is a 4/4 to block for her. Everybody discards a card, and then Liliana, everybody discards a card. All your opponents are down 3 cards really quickly by the time you're on 4 mana, basically. And you've got a 4/4 flying blocker, which is decent enough protecting. Otherwise, you just edicts a player, and then I've only really used this last ability once, maybe twice. Predominantly, she's just kind of upticking and staxing people's hands to nothing, and then serving as a removal spell, which is kind of overcrafted. Narset Part of Veils stops people from windfalling, stops people from getting back the cards they want. Impulses, usually is 2 impulses and then dies, but can always be reanimated later with the Nicol Bolas Arisen downtick. So it makes it pretty hard for people to maintain hands. Ashiok Dream Render, people can't tutor, Graveyard Hate. Also mills yourself, which then sets up your graveyard for better targets to reanimate with your Nicol Bolas Arisen. It's great. A note, I don't have Hull Breacher or Opposition Agent. They will both be going in this list. And this would be kind of the section that I should put them in if I was showing them. Liliana Wake of the Dead serves a really similar purpose to Liliana the Veil. It's surprisingly easy to get the ultimate off on this. And also just serves as removal that can remove indestructible things. I've got a couple friends that play Avacyn or Ulamog, and just having ways of dealing with indestructible creatures can be really valuable. And the emblem here kind of just pretty quickly keeps the game under your control, at least always being able to return Nicol Bolas the Arisen to play, or Nicol Bolas to play, and then flip him into a Planeswalker. It can pretty quickly bury people. And then you can always return this to play after you've emblemed and get multiple emblems, etc. Notion Thief, again, does everything Narset wants to do and more, steals the cards yourself, instant speed, etc. Stranglehold, more turning off of tutoring, and then removal of this extra turns part. I've got a friend with a Tygam's Turns deck, which makes this pretty powerful second half, but just turning off all of the tutoring and fetch lands and things like that when you're trying to stall the game can, you know, brick 2 to 5 cards for players in a game. Some board wipes here. Cyclonic Rift, it's a good one. Pretty much all blue decks got it. Fire Covenant, costs a lot of life, kills basically everything. Again, Toxic Deluge costs some life. And this has been a thing I've found playing this deck is losing life or killing myself, mostly with Mana Crypt and then the Toxic Deluge and Fire Covenants and my lands. I I've gone games where I've only taken 3 points of damage from players and killed myself eventually. Damnation, kill everything, important. Crux of Fate, a little overcosted. Sweet art, sweet flavor. Doesn't kill Bolas, so curves out. It's playable, at least in my opinion. Not really a board wipe, but this sack 2 creatures often is. And, this often will draw you a couple cards, might end the game. I've only won the game with this once, but, it does work, grinds things out, always a sweet card to return from a graveyard as kind of like an additional board wipe, almost. Making people Edict again. Blasphemous Act, pretty important. The cheaper board wipes in this deck, Blasphemous Act, Toxic Deluge, Fire Covenant, all serve a really important role to being able to flip Nicol Bolas or to slam one of the other Planeswalkers. Because you can either drop a Blasphemous Act and pay for the 7, it's only 8 mana to flip, or Fire Covenant's an instant, same with Psych Rift, so you can board wipe end of turn and then move forward. Tutors, Vampiric Tutor, Mystical Tutor, Entomb, super important. Often is just hitting the Spark Double, but can tutor for any of the other creatures or instants and sorceries if you've got, a Snapcaster or something else going on. Yeah, there are just some sweet targets for this important card. Demonic Tutor. Praetor's Grasp. I find 3 mana is a lot, actually, to be tutoring, but this can, steal cards that I don't run in the deck that are important when you have a Narset or a Notion Thief in play, specifically Windfall. It's really great. You can also steal, what is it called? Smothering Tithe, etc. Useful card. Steal win cons out of players. Intuition, basically a 3 mana tutor for 3 cards. Instant speed. It's Entomb plus. Spellseeker, I know I said 3 mana is a lot. And this is restrictive, but it's something you can reanimate, and I've played games where I've ended up reanimating or having Spellseeker tutor for 4 cards in a game, which can just be brutal for people. Some card draw. Brainstorm, super good. With all of the tutors in the list, it kind of is a draw 3 for 1, which is great. Ancestral Visions, it's another draw 3 for 1. Takes some time to go off, but that's kind of what this deck is doing. It's a little bit of a battle cruiser, kind of control stacks list, so just pushes you way ahead of people. Mystic Remora, super important. Ghostly Pilfer, new card, trying it out. It's been okay. It draws some cards when people cast cards either from their graveyard or their commanders. Draws a couple cards just attacking. Can also serve as a discard outlet for getting a really expensive another Bolas Planeswalker into your graveyard when you flip Nicol Bolas Arisen. So hasn't disappointed yet, but nothing insane there yet. Rhystic Study, super good card draw. And then Consecrated Sphinx, insane card advantage, really. And lets you forbid lock people, buybacking forbid and using As We're Told to kind of discard those 2 cards each time for every spell, which is incredibly powerful way of ending the game in this list. I got some more stuff here. Got some recursion here. Reanimate. Returns any creature. Super important. Either getting back Bolas or a Con Sphinx or something else. Snapcaster buys back instants and sorceries. Can be reanimated. It's great. Jace Vryn's Prodigy. Again, pulls the impression of Snapcaster. Can be played earlier as a Merfolk Looter. Later in the game, can return it so that you can keep buybacking. Board wipes with a Planeswalker. Super useful. Liliana on the Last Hope. It just kind of does work steadily with this +1, killing off mana dorks or just making the biggest thing have 2 less power means your 4/4 Nicol Bolas can block most anything. And then returning cards from graveyards, as well as this ultimate here, serves as a win con. So this card's been awesome. Nothing bad to say about it here. Some removal now, just spot removal. Slaughter Pact, 0 mana, destroy target non-black creature. You lose the game unless you pay 3 the next turn. Really good for flipping Bolas and people thinking you've got, you know, they're going to kill it with one creature, whatever. You Slaughter Pact it, they don't get through, your Bolas survives the table. It's pretty useful. Vandal Blast hits everything, super nice. Artifact removal. Rakdos Charm just does everything here, destroys artifacts, exiles cards, so it's often hitting an artifact or exiling a card, but I've also killed a couple people when they have infinite creatures with this last ability. I'd honestly like to cut this, but I just don't see anything being more useful, really. The Elder Spell, this is just a for fun card, but destroys target planeswalkers and then puts a bunch of loyalty on somebody. I'm running a bunch of planeswalkers. I've definitely killed 2 planeswalkers of mine several times to put 4 more counters on the Dragon God and just immediately ult and kill everybody. And yeah, the other people play Atrax's lists with some random stacks pieces and planeswalkers or just Jace, Mind Sculptors, etc. They're just useful to say no. Just say no to other people having planeswalkers. And it's kind of an important and interesting thing about control decks, right, is that you need, it's often good to have really powerful but narrow abilities, and this is just kind of the ultimate powerful narrow ability when it comes to stopping other people winning with planeswalkers. Liliana's Triumph, got a bunch of Liliana planeswalkers, everybody edicts, they lose another card. You know, with the 3 mana lilies, this ends up being great. Being able to Chain Veil, everybody discards a card. Next turn, Bolas, everybody discards a card. Then, you know, everybody edicts, discards a card, discards a card. People are all down 5 cards by turn 5, meaning nobody has cards in hand except for you, and you've only played, you know, a Liliana and a Triumph in your commander. So, yeah, that's just how you can end up kind of quickly steamrolling through things. Gilded Drake, one of the best removal spells in the game for us here. It's something you can reanimate, steal commanders away, get multiple uses out of. It aggravates people when, you know, you steal a commander, a board wipe happens at some point, your Gilded Drake's dead, you flip Nicol Bolas, reanimate Gilded Drake, steal their thing back. Can be great. Blightcrafter, everybody edicts. If they can't edict, they discard a card. It's just the best Fleshbag Marauder impersonation out there. And yeah, it's pretty useful. Dack Fade-In steals an artifact. Can be crushing when you have a Notion Thief or a Narset in play, making people lose cards or drawing cards for yourself in a truly absurd way. I know people have started cutting this in more competitive lists, and as I said, this is not hyper competitive, but, you know, 3 mana, steal Soul Ring, steal Signet, it's just great, in my opinion. Deadly Rollick, more free removal when you've got Bolas in play, which is super important. The Eldest Reborn, super flavorful, does everything I want. Everybody everybody edicts, everybody discards a card, and then I get to reanimate anything. Card just does work, is, you know, a 1 for 7, effectively, which is awesome. Yeah, 5 mana for a 1 for 7, I will do that. So counter spells, super important part of the list. You're paying 7 mana to flip a planeswalker. You need to be able to protect it when going so. So 0 mana, Pact of Negation, super essential. Mana Drain helps you flip quick, flip, drop, fuel any kind of insane play. Just really, you know, EDH primo card. Negate and counter spell. Just good counter magic. Deflecting SWAT, we're seeing this more and more, I'm sure, everywhere. You know, just with Bolas in play, you can redirect. It's another free counter spell that kills something else. Same with this Fierce Guardianship here, just another free negate. All these free spells are super potent. Even the, you know, the green and the white ones that people aren't hot on, I think they're way stronger than people give credit for, and often are overlooked and should be used in those kind of colors that support them. Forbid, mentioned a couple times throughout this, but it's a counterspell for 3 mana, so basically cancel, which sucks. But it has buyback to discard 2 cards, and Nicol Bolas the Arisen, as we remember, has an uptick, everybody, or you draw 2, as well as, you know, with Consecrated Sphinx and a bunch of other card advantage things, you can get going with this. I used to run Kess in the list, which was useful to like randomly get this back. You can still kind of get this back into your hand from your graveyard if you've got Jaceren's Prodigy. But yeah. Force of Will, everybody knows, loves, and hates. Great card, necessary. And then to the lands, we'll go through this pretty quick then. Tolaria West tutors for any of the 0 mana packs, Mana Crypt, Slaughter, yeah, etc. That's about why it's in here, really, for Mana Crypt more than anything else. It's a 3 mana Crypt, which is still good. Cephalid Coliseum, draw 3, target player draws 3, then discards 3. Truly bonkers if you got an Ocean Thief in play, somebody discards 3, you just draw 3. And otherwise, costs me life when you tap it for blue, but otherwise it's an island. Urborg Torm of Yawgmoth. I'm not running Cabal Coffers. This is just here to stop life costs on certain lands. Fetches don't have to be cracked. Also, just fixes colors. Really great. Seagate Reborn. I've cast this once. It was good. Otherwise, I've played it predominantly just as a land. Mostly tapped, but the pay 3 life is definitely useful. And this gives me a blue source and a black source that Mystical Tutor can hit target, which is great. Crypt of, or the Undercrypt, Agamemnon's Undercrypt. This has been a little bit less good in my opinion. Just the thought was I'd pay 7 and that'd be cheaper than paying 8 for the second time to return Nicol Bolas to play. There just aren't enough creatures in the list right now. Now maybe with adding Hull Breacher and Opposition Agent, I'll see more value in this. But Seagate Reborn has just been a little bit better than the Undercity. I think running at least one of these kind of lands is pretty necessary. In any blue deck, I think you want to run Seagate Reborn. It's pitchable to your Force of Wills, as well as something you can tutor as a land with your Mystical Tutor. Yeah, so super essential lands there, basically. Basics, flavorful basics, because why not? Probably should be cutting some other lands for more basics in the list, in my opinion. I'm not paying CDH right, so just the cost of life can be a lot, and some people run back to basics and or Blood Moon, so which is kind of problematic. The Mountain's the least important of them, but I'm gonna run one of each. And then just really quickly, 3-color lands, exotic, or 5-color lands, 3-color lands, Exotic Orchard, Mana Confluence, Command Tower, City of Brass, Reflecting Pool. Got a couple proxies on these. Yeah, I don't know. They look great. I think they look a lot better, and I'm not going to play with the OG ones in the list, at least. The shocks my brain here. And then some fetches, Scalding Tarn, Mystic Rainforest, Prismatic Vista, Clear Water Pathway. This probably should just be a basic or another land. But art looks great. Just trying it out. But Sulphur Falls, Fire Island. These are insane, by the way. People should be running more of these. Underground River, Dragon's Skull Summit, Shivan Reef, Luxury Suite, and Morphic Pools. Can't wait to get the new art, but it'll be cool. Yes, that was the list. Tell me your thoughts. Nicol Bolas, The Arisen. Any cards I should cut? Things that are missing? Any other ideas? Please share.